Welcome all once again. And tonight we dominate the podcast galaxy. I'm your host, Sully. I say screw the Prime Directive tonight. All bets are off. Joining us from the 27th Precinct podcast, among many others, Oliver Rockside is here.
Hello.
He's doing his diligent part. Soldier and former paratrooper Gil Palmer is here tonight.
Hello.
Returning teacher of mankind, Teresa Lee, is here as well.
Oh, that's overwhelming.
You're going to get a nickname whether you like it or not. Master blogger Sarah Cooke is back on the show.
Hi.
Hello. Number one prodigy fangirl Jin Lee Rossman is joining us tonight.
Hello.
Once successful, now fired prosecutors Dylan and Robb from Reels of Justice are joining us tonight.
Happy to be here.
I was told I'd get to meet Yoda.
Damn it. I knew we were at the wrong convention. No, it's either that or Starship Troopers. Well, something with the word star, maybe Star Fox?
Like to know more.
Would you like to know more? He's resetting the Delta Quadrant. John from the Mission Log podcast is here tonight.
Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Colonial Marines themselves, Aaron and Cliff from Predator Minute.
Yep, here to connect the Predator and Fear and Loathing universes.
Yeah, there you go. We'll find a way. We'll find a way to connect that crazy cyberpunk universe. Number one horror anthology fan, Paul Derby, is back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Live long and prosper, everybody.
Yeah. He's a doctor, but only in name. Ryan Mattila from Bad Movies Rule joins us for his first guest.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Glad you could join. So once again, as we do with all rankings, we love to really just kind of put all the snobbery aside and really just figure out, fan, non-fan, casual viewer, why a franchise has really appealed to so many groups. And this is just perfect. We got so many different age and demographics groups, and it's going to be just really touching, just seeing why this franchise has just really left some kind of impression, hopefully positive, to so many here tonight. We're going to let Oliver start us off. How did you get into Roddenberry's very complex and philosophical universe?
Just a brief story. I was only allowed to watch 2 television shows when I was young.
That checks out.
One was Sesame Street and the other one was Star Trek.
There you go.
The original series. The reason being is that I grew up in rural Canada, which was very homogenous, let's just put it that way. And my mother felt that Star Trek was very beneficial in teaching me how that if people look different, we're all the same. And so it was from about 4 to about 8, I just was besotted with Star Trek, and it just kind of continued on from there. And now that I'm 58 years old, I still love it. I'm sure we're going to have an argument about the reboot at some point, but
yes, probably.
But yeah, that's kind of where my love of Star Trek came.
Yeah, lovely. All right, Jen, how did you embrace this very progressive and scientific universe?
So I grew up with a mother who was not really a science fiction nerd, but she liked the original Star Trek. And she tried to get me into it a little bit when I was younger. It didn't really stick. And then when I was a teenager, I was very obsessed with Beyond Belief fact or fiction.
There you go. Jonathan Breaks Factor brought you in.
I realized that, he's on Next Generation. I kind of got into that. But then I never really got into the whole universe until last year when... between seasons 2 and 3 of Picard, a staff member at my group home asked me if I was watching Picard. I said no, and he's like, "Will you? Because no one else wants to talk about it with me." Started watching that and realized I have no idea what's happening. I need to rewatch Next Generation.
Nice.
Last year,
all out of sequence. Lovely.
Every episode and movie of Star Trek in the last year because it became my new autistic special interest.
There you go. All right. So, John, how did you join the staff of the mini Roddenberry podcast?
Well, that is one story on its own. But the fandom goes deep. I mean, I can't remember a time in my life that I wasn't a Star Trek fan, dating back to, 3-4 years old, something like that. So it's always been in my life. I've always been a fan. And then, a long story short, through various production work, Rod and I became friends, and he said, "Hey, I want to do a project where we explore every episode of Star Trek ever made, because he had just finished a documentary about his father called Trek Nation. And he said, now that I've explored the man, I want a project to explore the work, and why people always came up to him as a kid and said, your father's show changed my life, and Rod wanted to know why. So we crafted this show, Mission Log, to explore exactly that. And to date, I have seen all the Star Trek. I have seen every minute of every Star Trek yet produced. So,
Lovely.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's a hell of a lot of it.
Wonderful. So Sarah, Trek is one of your many fandoms. How did it fit into your life, let alone your viewing patterns?
Trek is my original fandom. Both my parents were huge Trekkies. They were watching TOS and reruns when I was a baby. And then Next Gen premiered when I was a little kid, and it was a huge deal in our house. We watched it together every week. And then I just kept watching as the new shows and new movies came out. I watched everything that came out. There's never really been a time where I haven't been watching Trek.
Ryan, how did you get into the mini Kirk chops and sexy shirt rips?
So I actually grew up watching the original, I want to say the first 5 that came out with my family. Like growing up, if we did a movie night, we'd watch those. I didn't really get into the shows at all until I got older. Probably 7 years ago, I started watching the original series, like the episodes, and they're dated now, right? But you can still, there's a lot of adventure to them, and it's interesting you mentioned that the philosophical angle to it, because I started watching Next Generation with my kids recently, and it's actually there's quite a bit of philosophy behind each episode where you're kind of going, wait, how does this actually, how would that work in reality?
Yeah.
So
what is this a metaphor for?
Right. I don't have quite as extensive filmography with it, but I definitely enjoy a casual enjoyer, like you said.
Hopefully these rankings will give you more exposure.
Yeah, more homework, right?
Teresa, how did you beam aboard this saga?
Well, my mother is a fan of the original series, but really what got me into Star Trek was the episode of Reading Rainbow when LeVar Burton explained.
Oh, really?
Nice. Yeah, and hearing him talk about how great it was to make a science fiction TV show and demonstrating the teleport effect or the beam effect.
And there you go.
From there, I've kind of always been a casual fan of it. I've seen at least one episode of every series except for Picard. I totally missed Picard, but a lot of Next Gen and some Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
Nice.
So yeah, and a few years ago, I got to be in a one-act play that was about Star Trek.
Oh.
And from there, decided I should really be paying better attention and checked back in with it.
We should see a video upload of this sometime.
It is on YouTube. If
sweet.
you search Teresa D. Lee Final Frontier, then it'll come up.
I'm looking forward to this. Alrighty, so Gil, what does this universe mean to you?
Well, I kind of got into it, probably about 72, 73 or so. I don't know exactly when they started doing the syndication. I think it was before that maybe, but I don't remember. But I was getting into comic books at the time, and it'd be the thing after dinner where we'd all get set down, and before primetime television, they were showing the syndicated shows, syndicated episodes on TV, and that's just how I got into. My grandfather was a huge science fiction fan. Between the comic books and taking the interest that he had into it,
nice.
I just kind of fell into it and just I identified with it. So.
Paul, you've always been into all kinds of stuff, from the Twilight Zone to Outer Limits to Escape from New York. Where does this Roddenberry chapter fit into your life?
Pretty much have loved Star Trek original series for as long as I can remember. I like a lot of the other Trek. It did take me quite a while to watch some of the later series, and I'm still not all caught up with it. But
all right, guys, no spoilers.
Apparently, my first experience with Star Trek was my mother smuggled me into the theater to see the motion picture when I was in diapers. Apparently,
checks out.
I remember watching the original series in syndication a lot. Saturday afternoons, I believe it was on. Plus, I always had a fascination with space. I don't know if Star Trek started that or if it was watching Cosmos, because I was watching them both around the same time. So
maybe a bit of everything.
Then I just pretty much really got into science fiction, like Buck Rogers and
Nice.
Star Wars and all sorts of things. But I was always more into Star Trek than Star Wars, but I liked them both. Yeah, original series, the original series movies, I actually used to watch those several times a year after I got the collection on VHS. I still have that collection around somewhere, but I couldn't tell you the last time I've actually played a VHS.
Probably worth 300,000 on eBay now.
If only. Maybe it is. I don't know. Kind of against Next Generation originally, but then started watching it after they killed Tasha off. Started really liking it, and then moved on from there. Next Generation's probably my second favorite out of all of it, but I really like the original series the best.
I look forward to this ranking. All right, Dylan, why are you a hardcore fan? And Rob, why are you a casual viewer?
I think hardcore might be a bit of an oversell, but it's one of those
you
things.
reference it so much.
It's definitely, it's a hardcore fan.
Okay,
show him your tattoo.
No, I can't. Not on the video. You'll have to bleep it. No, it just started. My father was a huge Trekkie. He grew
tiny.
up with. That's true. He's a small man,
tiny guy.
But he loves Star Trek. And basically, if you wanted to stay up late at my house when we were growing up, you had to watch Star Trek: The Next Generation with my father. I think the first movie I ever saw in theaters was The Undiscovered Country too. So it's been in my blood from a very young age, going all the way up through the various series. So it's stuck with me. My uncle is a huge fan of it as well. So just the whole family just absolutely loves Trek, and it's stuck.
That's dynamite. All right, Maynard, why have you found some of the movies to be somewhat entertaining?
I've barely seen any of the movies, and the ones I have, I didn't find to be entertaining.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
You like the motion picture.
I did like the motion picture. I do like I'm not as big on Rathacon. It's okay. And
we look forward to your hot takes.
Those aren't hot takes. They're very cool. The first series I saw was the animated series, which I still think is the best series. I saw that in college. And then after that, I started watching the original series, which was pretty good, except for all the ideas it stole from the animated series.
Right.
Like the Stephen A. Smith of Star Trek.
Oh!
I only like Nemesis and the animated series.
Torpedoes have been fired at
me. I didn't like Nemesis, no.
Nemesis is great, but we'll get into that later.
We'll get into it.
I did like Insurrection.
All right.
You've seen tons of the movies.
I didn't like them, though.
All right. Nerd pitch on you. Cliff, how did you make time for track? And we'll let Aaron go after the...
Yeah, it really was so much an amalgamation of everything I've heard here. You know, my dad used to take us to the Blockbuster Video, get the VHS tapes. We started from episode 1 of the original series and moved down. And I was also a big fan. You know, we had a huge collection of 50s, 60s, 70s pulp novels, of course. Voyage of the Space Beagle, because especially the original series is so pulp sci-fi, and it's so neat to watch that go to Next Generation and go from that 50s style of adventure to like thoughtful philosophy. So I've
of a story arc,
but my age forces me into TOS fandom, but I pretty much enjoy them all, although I will admit, besides Picard, I have not kept up, much to the chagrin of my friend Aaron here.
Well, there you go. All right, Aaron. Why are you a sci-fi action fantasy completist?
I don't know. I think one of my earliest memories is when I was 3. We just moved into this new house, and my mom had this big TV, and she sat me down and said, "Okay, I'm going to let you watch 1 hour of TV," and she put it on Star Trek, and then from there on, it was like every day on Channel 44, 5 o'clock. I would sit down and watch Star Trek, and it took me I think 3 or 4 times through the entire series. And this went on for years, by the way, 3 or 4 times through before I realized that there was like an order to it. And then I would try to figure out which episode was actually the first. So I'd have to go through it. Maybe by the 8th time I figured out it was that I can't remember the name of it, but it had Spock and like that Pike or whatever. The
cage.
There you go.
The production quality was different because it was the pilot.
They turned it into the only 2-part episode eventually.
Yep.
Yeah, Menagerie, part 1 and 2. Yep.
Gonna geek out here on these titles. That's awesome. So echoing a lot of what you guys have said, I would literally just spend hours in between high school studies just reading just endless film history books. When ever since Star Wars in 2001, I was always a big visual effects, visual storytelling completist. So I saw my blockbuster sucked, but TV was my weapon. I became a big sci-fi guy thanks to the Terminator movies. I was a horror guy thanks to X-Files, and Trek pretty much fit into that same mold. But it was even better because it's like, okay, but it's also a Western, it's a space cop show, it's a medical doctor show. It's also got allegories from everything from war crimes to political downfall, and still love how every episode is in some way timeless. I used to think, for instance, the Cardassians and Klingons and various other races were allegories for something like Bosnian versus Serbia, but nowadays it seems like it's a metaphor for something like the Palestinian conflicts, as well as the uproar in Israel in recent years. But that's just it. It's the power of social commentary in an otherwise just very complex and entertaining world. And being a cyberpunk William Gibson guy, there was a lot of those same kind of ideals of wicked corporations, half cyborg characters, and just emphasis on technology empowering races and a better economy. So I saw all the movies in chronological order growing up. Around that same time, I saw Who, the first episode where the Borg are introduced. So I was a Next Gen fan for life. And then I saw pretty much, there was always ways to see reruns of all the other ones, DS9 and Voyager growing up. I'll get into some of the other ones and leave it for the ranking, but it was interesting how one way or another, you were always seeing these just talented directors or actors in some other giant project and being like, that guy, he was the outer space terrorist in episode such and such, or he was the awesome, Starfleet captain in that episode. So if there was any way to tell that you were a super geek, you knew someone would do that. And I applaud anyone who can do all these just little references here and there, and I just light up every time, like whether it's a movie that references the arena fight, someone else just doing a casual reference. Every once in a while someone will shout out at a convention, there are 4 lights, and I know instantly, oh, I see what you did there.
Aaron can never hear the words the needs of the many without him going, what was why?
It's just going the character.
Full time, but at a funeral doesn't matter. Well, that's appropriate at a funeral.
Well, if you've ever seen like the new cartoon Star Trek, the Lower Decks thing, they really delve deep into the fan service. They usually cater very much for the fans with references to all the other stuff that came before.
They really do. I think that's why it's a more polite fan base compared to other ones where you're like, okay, guys, you gotta chill.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy, you gotta sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in, it's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win Show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
I'm going to let Paul start off with his ranking first, and we'll just kind of circle around. You just
All
give
right.
a typical 5-star ranking, just like on a like you would on any 5-star scale, from best to worst.
Oh, well, I know a lot of people wouldn't agree with it, but I'd have to give original series 5 stars. It was ahead of its time for the time frame it was. It's entertaining. Especially always loved the interactions between Spock and McCoy and Kirk, especially the McCoy and Spock. I was glad they kept that in the movies as well. Generation, I definitely would give that one 5 stars or near 5 stars. It was definitely a bit more realistic. One of the problems with the original series is all the big people always went into unknown situations.
Yep.
That would never happen. They controlled that a lot more in Next Generation, and most of the expanded Trek after that was all based was more based off of the Next Generation format going forward.
Yep.
So it really established the expanded universe of Trek. Fortunately, I've only seen a couple of episodes of the animated series, and it's been so long since I don't really remember them. One of the things on my
They're
list.
very
To
good.
get back to.
Yes. They're basically you could call them extended episodes of seasons 3 and 4 that never were, much like continuous web series. So.
But Next Generation also introduced some great villains to the Trek universe. The Borg. Those were a favorite of mine, especially because I've always had a thing for cybernetic life forms.
Yeah.
And my love of Doctor Who was always into that because they had Doctor Who had the Cybermen.
Yeah.
And Star Trek had the Borg.
Is their answer.
The Deep Space Nine, I think, was probably my next favorite after Next Generation. I was really slow to get into that one. I didn't really like it a whole lot. Just watched it. In the beginning, I didn't really like it a whole lot. I watched it. It was basically one of those things I didn't make an effort to watch, but if I was around and nothing else was on, I'd watch it. Started watching it a bit more in college, though, because my roommate was always watching it by the time I got back to the dorm room. So
that'll do it.
Started watching it more then. I think that was about the time point where Worf was on the show.
Yep. Made it
so
better.
That helped too, because I really liked that character. Liked what they did with him later in the Next Generation, and also after that point, because his character I thought was pretty weak in the beginning of Next Generation.
Yep.
Voyager, that was another one I kind of hated on for years and often made fun of, but once I gave it a chance to watch here I think it was about 10 years ago when I actually sat down and watched the entire series, there was a lot of good stuff that was going on in that. Yeah, another favorite of those later series there, I believe, pretty sure they were introduced to Next Generation, or no, Deep Space Nine was the Dominion. I thought those were fun. I actually got a chance to meet Jeffrey Combs a while back, and I got him to sign a Wii U picture.
There you go. How would you rank the movies?
The movies, the original series movies, I definitely love those. I never bought into the even odd rule that a lot of people go with. I like them all. I got weird rankings for them because there's like it depends on what I'm in the mood for. Like Star Trek 4, I consider that the funny one of the series. Undiscovered Country, I really like that one, but I'd have to say that one was best the first time you see it. After losing the mystery of what was actually going on there, it's it's still rewatchable, but it wasn't as big on it. Well, compared to the other ones, but
Fair enough.
Motion Picture, Rathacon, Search for Spock. I've seen. I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen those. And actually, a while back here, ended up going to a mini Trek marathon where they were showing Star Trek 2, 3, and 4 in the theater back to back. And
Nice.
in between a couple of movies changes, they actually that was the same day that Uhura actually passed away.
Oh, damn.
So they made an announcement about that, but it was kind of sad, but still kind of a good memory thinking back of what she did for Trek and all that. Her character was
Inspired
always
so
great.
many astronauts. Yep.
Yes, definitely inspired a lot. Plus, I thought her character was freaking great in the entirety of the series. I always really felt bad in the original series episode. This was the same episode that ended up being the basis for the it was kind of a rewrite and turned into the motion picture, but the Nomad episode, her memory got erased in that one.
Yeah.
I always felt really bad about that. Not that they really kept it too much after that point, but
yeah, it's a one-off.
Yeah. And it also took me a while to get in Enterprise. It took me a while to get into that show. I did finally give it a go. There's things I liked about it, but all in all, it was I think it was probably the weakest of the Trek series I've watched. Plus, they really changed distances a lot in that.
Yeah.
It didn't make much sense, but there's a lot of things I really liked about the show. I thought I had a few decent characters. It was kind of interesting to see the early Federation being put together.
And they can't always
like
beam
that.
people up.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was kind of nice. And then from that point, I'm trying to remember what was next after that. I've seen
the next gen movies.
Oh yeah, the next gen movies. Those, all in all, I liked them all. I'd have to say probably my favorite out of them was First Contact, and Insurrection. I really liked Insurrection a lot, but was not a favorite with a lot of people. Generations I liked, but the thing I hated about Generations, they killed Kirk off.
Yeah.
They could have easily kept it going. And
that's why it divides people.
There's actually, I haven't read a lot of Star Trek novels, but there were a few I read that were based around that time frame where Shatner actually did survive, and it was about him adjusting into that world.
Somehow those Shatner has returned.
Yep.
Yeah, the return is what they were called.
Shatner has fallen. Shatner has risen.
Yeah, they're kind of. I thought they were fairly entertaining. But yeah, probably my ranking out of the Next Generation movies is going to be 2, 3, 1, 4. As far as the order that I like them. I mean, I did like the last one they did there, but it was basically Star Trek Arthurian legend.
Yeah, essentially it.
But it was kind of fun. I was a little soiled on that one though, because my roommate at the time, he somehow got a hold of a script copy of that before the movie hit, so he's constantly going on and on about it, which was weird anyway, because he was not a big Trek fan anyway. He's a big comic book nerd, but he was not a Trek fan. So he'd go on about that, and then when we finally went to go see the movie, he'd be going on, "Oh yeah, they did this different there, or such and such and stuff." So it's kind of annoying.
It's like, dude,
I'm not big on spoilers.
For it.
And then out of the newer stuff they put up, I haven't seen any of the Lower Deck stuff. I've heard it's good. Looks interesting. I'll check it out at some point. Picard, I've been meaning to watch that, but haven't been able to get down to watch that. I'll probably end. Nice saying when I do finally get down to watch it, I'll be able to watch stuff without waiting for the next episode.
There you go.
But on the downside, that will mean pretty much the series is dead by the time I get around to watching it. But watched the first couple of seasons of Discovery, and I thought it was fun. Second season I liked a lot more, where they're setting up. Pike was in it. I still got to watch his series. Haven't watched that yet, but I definitely am planning on it because I really liked what he did with the character. And
Absolutely.
I thought they put that down pretty good.
Wonderful.
So that's
Yeah.
probably about all I got to say for now, anyway.
Paul has left his mark. All right. We're beaming in John into the critics' corner.
I hope you got time.
We got time.
All right. I'll go in ascending order here for TV shows. So coming in at 3 stars out of 5, Picard and Discovery. I feel like both of those being modern treks, a bit inconsistent. They change radically from season to season, and that smacks of a show that doesn't quite know what it wants to be yet. And it's still trying to find its voice. But they're quality productions, even though they frustrate me a lot. I think Enterprise is underappreciated. When it's good, it's really good. When it's bad, it's bad. So they come in at 3.5. Also at 3.5, the animated series. I have a lot of love for Star Trek, the animated series, but they were cut short. I feel like there was so much more to do, and they really could have landed it. But again, very inconsistent. Stranger Worlds, 4 stars out of 5. Ooh. They're brand new. They're brand new. They've only had 20 episodes so far. Couple of those have been clunkers, and I kind of wonder what happened to Pike in season 2. He's just not around very much. But overall, it's a really well-produced show with a lot of great characters. Prodigy, coming in also at 4 stars. Great show. Has one of my all-time favorite Star Trek episodes ever, which is All the World's a Stage by Aaron Waltke. That is a fantastic must-watch episode by anyone. But again, it's cut a little bit short. We've only had 20 episodes. Season 2 is in production now. Will premiere relatively soon. And I hope they get up to a 5 star out of 5 for me. I think they will, but I think they're just not there yet because we haven't had a lot. They need to tell more of the story. Voyager, second half of Voyager, amazing. First half of Voyager, a bit rocky. They get a nice 4 stars. They get a nice solid 4 stars. Same with DS9. DS9 took a long time for them to find their footing. I think the secondary cast in DS9 is better very often than the stars of the show. But again, a solid 4, no question about it. All right, coming in at 5, Lower Decks, because they kill it, not only because it's hilarious, but they actually do the drama. They actually do character stories that are meaningful and some of the best character stories that have been told on Star Trek. So they get 5. Hope Mike can actually live out his plan of doing 8 seasons, because that's what he's written, is 8 seasons worth. TNG, kind of the gold standard. They get 5 out of 5, even though there's a lot of really clunky episodes in there, especially in the first half. And then the original series, they kind of have to get 5 because they set the standard. They set the tone. And yeah, you need a little bit of, I guess, sort of cultural orientation to go into a show that's nearly 60 years old. But it's great. It's really solid. It's fun. And there's something really nice about watching a show that isn't trying to be too clever for its own good. And that's the problem that I have with a lot of modern shows. See also the bottom of my list, Picard and Star Trek Discovery. There's something really refreshing about a show that is just very earnest and sincere and thoughtful with the stories that it's trying to tell. Even when they get them wrong, it's okay. Move on to the next week, new story.
Yep. Go to the ones you love as opposed to cling on to the bad.
Exactly. And you know what? I like, yeah. There are all kinds of...
Oh, it was an unintentional pun. Cling on. Yep.
There are all kinds of shots you can take at the original series, but it's sort of like if you love baseball, but you're like, oh, but I hate Mickey Mantle or Babe Ruth. Like, what are you talking about? Those are the people who Like they set the standard, Oh, I love rock and roll, but I hate the Beatles. Like, get out of here. Just stop.
No.
Stop trying to be
Doesn't
too
work.
cool. Okay. That's the reason that you're here. All right, let's talk about movies though. Okay. Movies I'm going to do in descending order.
There you go.
Change this up a little bit here. All right, 5 stars, Star Trek the Motion Picture. It is much maligned. It is underappreciated. It is misunderstood. That new 4K director's cut is nothing short of a miracle. It is remarkable to be able to remake that movie the way they did. And it is the most true to the tone, the philosophy, the heart of Star Trek. Has some of my favorite moments in all of Star Trek. So again, if you need a little orientation to get into it, fine, but you really need to stick it out and watch that movie. Also at 5 stars, Star Trek The Undiscovered Country, Star Trek 6. Beautiful wrap up, just a tight, well-told story, beautiful send-off to that cast. Also at number 5, The Wrath of Khan. I think it is maybe the least Star Trek of the movies, but it is an incredible movie that is told very well with a lot of just efficiency, high drama. It's wonderful to watch. It's just fun. And I've seen it more than any other Star Trek movie, hands down.
I am.
4 stars, The Voyage Home. It's fun. It can't help be but fun. Also fun at 4 stars, First Contact. It's a haunted house movie in space. And we get fun character moments with our lead characters. So why not? Also at 4 stars, here's an odd one, Star Trek Beyond. I think they landed it with their 3rd outing of the J.J. Abrams cast because they just did an episode. They just we're going to get right into the story. They're in space. They're doing cool stuff. We're just going to do an episode of Star Trek. And I thought they did it really nicely. 3.5 stars, Search for Spock. I think it's dependent on Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 4, but it is an overlooked, underappreciated movie. Also at 3.5 stars, Generations. A lot of problems with that movie, but one of the problems is not Malcolm McDowell, and one of the problems is not the director of photography. I think that movie looks beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
It was shot really nicely, right?
Yep.
3.5 stars, Insurrection. Again, not a great movie, but they did an episode. They just did a really great episode of Next Gen. So Insurrection, quite good. All right, we're going to lower it down a little bit here. 3 stars, 3 stars, Final Frontier. Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, is a very poorly made, very good Star Trek movie. So sit on that, if you will.
No, I got what you mean. It would work as an episode. It's just as a movie, you're like, Schlender.
It is not a well-produced or well-directed movie, but it is a thoughtful movie that was right up Gene Roddenberry's alley. Should have been better than it was. 2 stars, Star Trek Nemesis. Poor way to send off that cast. Yeah, it really was. Wait a minute. I got to flip it. 3 stars, actually, Star Trek 2009, the first J.J. Abrams movie. I think it's just solid. It doesn't wow me with the story, but I think the casting is great. It was a good way to reboot Star Trek. Many flaws, but it's just solid. It earns its 3. Okay, so yeah, 2 Nemesis, and I'm sorry, but it's 0 stars is the second J.J. Abrams movie, Star Trek Into Darkness, a movie that just makes me angry every time that I think about that movie even got made. It just makes me full of rage. So they get 0 stars and no more.
That's the one where they retold Khan's story, right?
Oh, yeah. No. It's not Khan, Gil. It's John Harrison. It's somebody you've never heard of who has nothing to do with a legacy Star Trek character.
To quote
John
Tropic Thunder,
Harrison.
he's the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude.
Disguised as another dude. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, man. You wiped the floor here today.
So there you go.
Man, all right.
Now I'll be judging everybody else's choices.
All right, the Admirals are in. So, Sarah, I'm going to let you take off with your rankings for Blast Off.
Okay, I'll start with the shows. Start with number 1, Next Gen, because I have a special place in my heart for it. Then I'd say Deep Space Nine next. I think I always thought DS9 was interesting because it was not everyone who reports to Cisco is Starfleet, which is interesting. Just also Kira might be my favorite Star Trek character.
Nice.
And all the Dominion stuff, you have Cisco kind of walking some like ethically gray lines. Just all around good stuff. I mean, Garrick and Quark, everything. Next, I think I'm gonna say Voyager, Janeway and Seven, and I think TOS. Then I'm gonna say Strange New Worlds. I really love what they're doing. I love their takes on the characters. I think that they do a good job of showing the characters at an earlier kind of stage of development, so they're not just imitating previous performances. They're kind of showing where they were before the point that we're used to seeing them at. And it's just a fun show. They have a musical and they have a fantasy episode.
Still waiting on that College Humor recut. She's just divided
totally. Then Lower Decks, also just so much fun, so many callbacks for fans. I think they just really nail the humor and they just get it. Like they just get what people love about Trek and about like next gen era Trek specifically. Then I'm gonna say Enterprise, which I enjoyed. It's not my favorite, but I enjoyed it. And the animated series, which same thing. It's not like it was fun. It's cheesy at times for sure, but fun. Oh, and Disco. I forgot Disco. Where would I put Disco?
Is that what we're calling it now instead of Discovery?
I'd say probably, I don't know, maybe tied with Strange New Worlds. I'd put Discovery. I really like Michael Burnham a lot as a character, and I love seeing her evolution, seeing from where she's at in the first season, where she's everyone thinks of her as this like mutineer, and she's kind of having to prove herself and kind of trying to still figure out who she is, and she still has so much of this like history being raised with Vulcans, but also trying to kind of find her humanity, and seeing where she is now and how she's evolved. It's been a fun journey. For movies, I'll start with TOS movies. I'd say number 1 is Wrath of Khan.
Yep.
Just that scene, Spock's death scene is, I mean, I have been and always shall be your friend. Like that's one of the most heartbreaking scenes in all of movies, honestly.
That they kind of revisited it Into Darkness. Very badly, but still.
Don't get me started. Okay. We're not gonna go there.
All right.
Then probably motion picture. I agree. I think it feels very Star Trek. It feels very TOS. And I'm gonna say Undiscovered Country, I think would be next. Yeah, I think I'm gonna say Undiscovered Country, Voyage Home, and Final Frontier.
Is that your final answer?
I think that is my final answer. Yeah.
All right. Well, that checks out.
Yeah, for the Kelvin movies, I don't know. I'm gonna say they're tied. As far as just my own personal enjoyment of them, if you're ranking like actual quality of them, I would go into more detail. But as far as my own just personal enjoyment of them, I didn't get into them as much. I tried, and I rewatched them a couple times, and I just couldn't get into them as much. For next gen movies, I think First Contact. I love seeing the crew meet Zefram Cochrane. Seeing them nerd out about it is so much fun. Seeing him in this different light, like when we see him in TOS, he's this kind of like much more serene, like lofty scientist.
Yeah.
And see him like playing rock music and just like this different, I liked that version of him. It was a lot of fun. Then probably Insurrection, I'm going to say next. Then Generations. It's fun to see, obviously, the crews together. Kirk does die, which is sad, but I thought it was a good send-off for him. He dies heroically and kind of as like a formal kind of I guess barrier between the TOS era and the next gen era as far as the movies go. I think it was a good way to do it. And then Nemesis.
All right. Sounds
I
about
think
right.
that's everything.
For now.
For now.
Alrighty.
Oh, Prodigy. I forgot about Prodigy. I'm gonna say Prodigy is probably tied with Lower Decks.
Pros and cons.
Yeah, well, it's almost tied, I'd say. I do enjoy Lower Decks a bit more, but I like the characters in Prodigy. It's being aimed at kids. I think it did a good job of that without being like it still feels like Star Trek, but it's a good, I think, entry point. And the characters are fun, and it's fun to see kind of this idea of what the Federation is about from the perspective of these kids who haven't really experienced it firsthand yet.
Everyone's got a window. There's something for everybody. You got a R-rated cartoon, then you got a kids cartoon. So yeah. Perfect. All right. So Teresa, I'm gonna let you go next. At the bridge, at the ready.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna start by saying I decline to rate the movies.
Oh,
I feel it's not the movies, it's me. I'm a terrible viewer of the films. Like, as a casual viewer of the series who didn't watch every episode, I always felt like I was missing something from the show that would enable me to understand the movies.
Interesting.
So I like what stands out are First Contact and the Kelvin timeline movies. But otherwise, I'm going to say that I had trouble following plots and declined to rate the movies. As far as the TV episodes go, there are shining moments in each series where I felt like I understood what was going on, and there are memorable whole storylines. See, with the original series, I would rank it a 4 because it's kind of comic booky in its characterizations, and the acting is theatrical. And the writing got a lot better later, but it has that wonderful feeling of going on an adventure. It's easy to jump in and watch week to week. The animated series, I would rate a 3. It didn't stay in my memory really well, but I think like relatively for a cartoon, the writing was much more deeper than a lot of animated TV shows. Next Gen is a solid 5. The writing had really gotten better, and the cast has the most cohesion. They feel like a family more than the other casts, I think, for working together. And their story arcs, like Data and his brother Lore, and Data's quest for humanity and emotional expression. I just generally like Next Generation the best. It's the one I grew up on. Deep Space Nine, I will say, is a 3 because I haven't seen enough of it. I always watch the first season, and I find it compelling for the cast being in more conflict with each other. It seemed really dark compared to the other Star Trek series. And I also like their debate on science versus religion.
And
in a nutshell, that's it. I'm a terrible Star Trek viewer. I'm so sorry.
I think you landed the shuttle, but it had a few rough around the edges landing there.
No wrong answers. I love it. Yeah, no wrong. I give your ratings 5 stars. 5 stars for her ratings.
5 stars for that one episode.
I rank her ratings number 3 in my ratings.
Okay, you behave. All right, Oliver, I'm going to let you go. You've long overdue. Captain to the brig.
I think in series breadth, there's a very kind of common trope in Star Trek series is what I call the first 2 seasons disease.
Yes.
Which, with the exception of the original series, every series, the first 2 seasons seem to be awful. But in its series breadth, I would say that the best Star Trek series is Deep Space Nine. Within the Star Trek world, it was forced to do something different, which I found very refreshing. It also gave us the greatest character that Star Trek ever produced, in my opinion, outside of the regular cast, which is Garrick.
100% on Garrick, Oliver. You are a smart man.
We agree. Well,
Q started off malevolent and then became a comedy figure, so that's kind of why I'm not including him in this. But Garrick, I think, was a fantastic addition. A small plug for my own podcast, which is called 78 Episodes, 30 Good Ones, which was reviewing all of the original series episodes. It's Cooke classic. You can't go wrong. I think for the 60s, it was it was defining, and it bucked the trend. We all know the greatest episodes that the TOS did. I'm always a big fan of ones that are underrated. First season, A Taste of Armageddon. Second season has been mentioned before as Metamorphosis. Third season gets a bad rap. It's awful, don't get me wrong, but it's not as bad as you remember. And an excellent episode in the third season, apart from the obvious, which is the Enterprise incident, is one called Spectre of the Gun. I think that their lack of budget made that a better episode. I love Next Generation, of course. Next Generation gave me the best episode that Star Trek has ever done, in my particular estimation, which is one called Darmok. Just a fantastic episode.
Yeah, he has the Darmok and Jalad.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah,
it's a band t-shirt. This is Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra.
Yeah, speaking in metaphor, I thought that was just fantastic. The other series, Voyager, I think the problem with Voyager always is that the cast was the worst. I think Robert Beltran wasn't interested in Star Trek right from the get-go. Garrett Wang was terrible. I think they did Jennifer Leanne a disservice by treating her character that way. So Voyager had its hits and misses. Enterprise. Oh God, Enterprise. Enterprise was very. I would have thought that Enterprise was made in the 60s because it was very male gaze, very, very like Jolene Blaylock was. What was she there for? Just for people to stare at and for them to objectify.
Unfortunately, Rick Berman was very pervy back then.
Yeah,
the producer.
I think I enjoyed Strange New Worlds. I won't mention the other two because I hated them.
Damn.
As for movies, I would make the argument that Wrath of Khan is not only the greatest Star Trek movie, it is one of the greatest science fiction movies ever. I would put that in the top 10, along with Close Encounters and Empire Strikes Back and 2001. The greatest thing about Wrath of Khan is between Montalban and Shatner, there is a buffet of scenery chewing, and I am completely here for it. Again, Undiscovered Country has got the same thing, is that Christopher Plummer and William Shatner, who came out of the same theater about an hour down the road from me, it is a golden corral of scenery chewing. It is unbelievable, and that's what makes it good. The other thing I should point out is that they were both done by Nick Meyer. And Nick Meyer, for being an outsider, Nick Meyer he got it. Like he got Star Trek for being an outsider. Something that I don't think J.J. Abrams or Alex Kurtzman can say. Nick Meyer got it.
He was a filmmaker first, Trekkie second.
And if you watch Time After Time, which was kind of the movie that put Nick Meyer on the map, and it's about H.G. Wells, it was very, very good. As bad goes, Nemesis is a dumpster fire. I mean, B4, come on, people. I am not a fan of the motion picture. I understand that it's kind of grown in stature as it has aged. But I read the greatest review about it once, and I'll try and quote it as accurately as I can, in the fact that someone wrote, "It's about a lot of people in beige outfits who are in very bad moods."
Man,
I thought that was a great kind of
critics were cynical back then.
Yeah, but if you watch it, I mean, it has its problems, and it of course is I'm going to say a takeoff on an original series episode called The Changeling. Why they chose that, I don't know. But I would absolutely go deep for the new watcher. Deep Space Nine, original series, and Next Generation. You can't go wrong. Just in the case of Deep Space Nine and Next Generation, don't hold the first two seasons against them because it gets better. And for TOS, third season is a slog. Some of the episodes are just unbelievably bad. But search out the Enterprise incident and Spectre of the Gun. I think you'll find that the third season, and this may be a hot take, the one with Mariette Hartley in it, the second to last one. Tomorrow was yesterday. I think that was what it was.
All our yesterdays.
Okay, yeah,
not bad.
That's the one with Spock falls in love, wasn't it?
Yes. Not great, but good. But apart from that, that's kind of where I kind of stand in the Star Trek universe.
Damn. He's stumped. He came, he saw, he stumped. Anyway, so Jen, you can go next.
The movies that really stick out to me are the one with the whales, because it's just it's so weird and silly, and it feels like something they could have done on the original series if they had a much bigger budget. So that really appealed to me there. And the Next Generation movie that sticks in my head is First Contact, because it was the people that we know being nerds about the other people we know. So it really felt like it kind of tied the universes together in that regard.
Yeah.
I liked the J.J. Abrams movie. Like, they were fun movies. They didn't feel very Star Trekky to me. They were enjoyable, but not good Star Trek. So for the shows, top of my list would be Deep Space Nine. It was at the time when they could really start to get really open about transgender metaphors with the Trills. Lower Decks would be on my top of my list too, because it points out how silly some of the Star Trek is. You could watch this not knowing any of the references and still think, wow, that was a good episode of whatever this was.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Prodigy, where it loves what it is. It knows all of the weird things about Star Trek, and it just loves it and shows you how great it is. Next down would be Discovery. It goes completely in the opposite direction of TOS, where it's like, we are going to be dark constantly and do a little bit of silly stuff every once in a while. And they told one story for the whole season, and I think they did it very well. Around Discovery would be Voyager for me. It has a lot of problems. It suffers from the writers forgetting about things one episode to another, but individual episodes are good. I've been calling it Star Trek Brady Bunch, where it takes people who should never, like, they take people who should never have been a family and they force them to get along. Probably Next Generation would be next. That was my Star Trek. I love it. It's more serious than the original series, but it still has that same, here's the issue of the week, we're going to deal with it, silly stuff is going to happen. That's where I would put TOS to around like 4 stars. It's just fun, and it takes serious issues but does them in a fun and colorful way. Like, this had absolutely zero budget and it would tell good stories. And that's, I think, really telling how good it is. The shows I don't like as much are, I love Strange New Worlds, but I don't feel like it is succeeding in what it's trying to do. Like, it doesn't know whether it wants to be silly or serious in the space of one episode sometimes. Enterprise was good, but Archer kept pissing me off with all of his terrible decisions about, like, hey, let's take my dog to this planet. Like, I don't care if you don't have a prime directive. Don't take your dog. Like, it's common sense.
Keep the dog on the deck.
Tell us, don't let your dog pee in that important. Like, and Picard is definitely near the bottom of my list. I enjoyed it, but there was no need to bring back characters just to kill them off from Next Generation. Like every time they brought someone back, it's like, great, are they going to kill them now? And the answer is usually yes, just to further the plot, not really to wrap up their stories that much.
So, Gil, you are next to beam up to the bridge.
I'll start with the first series and move up. Star Trek, of course, it's the original. It's the first. It's got what cued everybody's interest.
So
I'd give that, I'd give that a 5. And it had some really top-notch episodes. Of course, it did have some bad episodes as well. But it's like Guardian. I'm not getting the titles right, but Guardians. What is it? Guardian of Forever storyline with Edith Keeler. That was a good story. Arena. There's the submarine type one where he's in a combat with Romulans.
Yeah.
So
Balance of Terror.
Balance of Terror. Yep. And I'd give that a 5. Moving on to Next Generation. Yeah, and it's like what was said before. The first 2 seasons. A lot of these shows didn't hit their stride till the 3rd season. Mm-hmm. Especially for the ones that ran for 7 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, Next Generation, when that Best of Both Worlds story came along, it just kicked it into high gear for me for liking it even more. And I'd give that a 5 as well. Deep Space Nine, well, I'll give that a 5 because that's my favorite of all of them. Captain Sisko, and there was a storyline where, when it had the Dominion War going on, and he's trying to convince this Romulan commander to join them. And he actually, he lies to get the job done. And he said he'd do it again. And that's not something you would have ever seen before that.
Yeah.
With
very groundbreaking.
Yeah. So then, and Voyager, that was my least favorite, I'd have to say, of all of them. I'd give that maybe a 3. Yeah, because it looks, when they kicked them off into the Delta Quadrant, they kind of took them away from all the things that made Star Trek really work. And they even had to try to bring back some of those elements in some way or another as they went along.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Enterprise, I wanted to like it, and I did, especially that 4th season.
Yeah,
it was really starting to get good, but of course it didn't get the ratings in, so it didn't go beyond that. But it seemed to me like they were going to get their 4th season. That seemed like when they were hitting their stride. That's when we wait till Discovery shows up, right? And I don't think they knew what they wanted to do with that when they started. They gave it a 10-year before Kirk, timeline. They just kind of jumped all over the place with it. They didn't know what they wanted to do with it. And I don't want to give any spoilers to anyone here who hasn't seen it.
Spoiler.
Yeah. But for that, and then Strange New Worlds or Lower Decks came first, didn't it? Before Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
And I really enjoy it. The humor in that is really, really good, and it really does cater to the fans, which there's nothing wrong with that, and I really enjoy it. And Strange New Worlds, I think I like it. It's kind of I always wanted to know more about Pike and Number One, and their stories and stuff like that. And I'm just glad to see that come into this, and I kind of enjoy where they're going with it so far.
Nice.
That Picard, yeah, they were jumping around each season. You weren't sure where they were going with it. I did enjoy the last season, of course, for obvious reasons.
Prodigy.
Prodigy. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I did want to know, okay, what happened to Chakotay? What, in the storylines and stuff like that, where, Chakotay takes a ship out, and these people find the ship, and you're like, okay, what happened to Chakotay? I still want to know what happened with that. And then for the movies, the first movie, the motion picture, wanted to like it, and they could have, of all the movies they could have taken stuff from, they took it from 2001 Space Odyssey with how plotting it seemed to be, especially when their long trip through V'ger. It just seemed to drag, in my opinion. Wrath of Khan, that's a favorite. I really like that one. It kind of has elements from Balance of Terror in it, in that it's like a submarine battle in space kind of thing. For Spock, I give that a 3. And
you gotta say it the way Shat says it. Spock. Spock.
Or Khan.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so 3, and then 4. 4 was a good one. I liked it, even though it's kind of hokey, with them traveling back in time and trying to save the whales, so to speak, or restart the whales, I should say. 5, it fell flat. That would probably be a 2 on my scale. And then 6, the Undiscovered Country. I like that one. Again, somebody brought up Nick Myers, or is it Nicholas Myers?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, those 2, 4, and 6 are my favorites. I'm not sure. Nicholas Myers only had involvement with 2 and 6.
Consultant on Discovery, but yeah, he's mainly been a big sci-fi and mystery filmmaker.
Generations fell flat for me. I was kind of unhappy with it. It felt like there was so much they could have done, and it didn't really move the way I hoped it would. I didn't like the way they killed off Kirk. First Contact. Now, I enjoyed First Contact, and it had some flaws in it, but I liked that time travel story, and it involved the Borg. So yeah, I guess of all the Next Generation movies, that would probably be my favorite. I'd give that not a 5 necessarily, but a 4. Insurrection.
Yes, the Return of the Jedi installment, I call it. 7 Samurai, Save the Village.
Yeah, it was like somebody else said. It was like a Next Generation episode more than a movie, and I'd be probably a 3 on that one. And then Nemesis, that was a big misstep with Shinzon and the clone of Picard.
Oh boy, that acting.
Yeah, I did like in 2009 the new Star Trek. Way too many lens flares, but I liked it.
Oof. Aaron's just losing it now.
and I didn't like maybe necessarily the speed at which like they moved through him going through, because joining Starfleet through the Academy. Then all of a sudden, he's captain of a starship. At the end of that, and
then Darkness, which is
that's the one with the
and then Beyond is the
homage movie. Beyond. Yeah, Beyond was okay, but I'd give that a 3.
Right.
I don't really have a lot to say about it. I mean, it was all right.
Cliff and Aaron, you were up on the roster, and then the prosecutors will close us out, and I will then put the final line in the sand.
All right. Yeah, in the interest of time for the listeners at home, we decided to combine our ratings because
it's a wonderful idea.
But what I'll do is I'll either throw a quote or a little commentary in each.
Okay, there you go.
Good. All right. So first off, the original series. It was each episode was its own self-contained thing, dealt with great issues in a lighthearted way almost, and it
had the Gorn getting taken down with the double axe handle, the greatest fighting style ever. Much better than when Picard brought in the MMA style fighting.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, but then next up, I would say would be the Next Generation, of course, which kind of peaks in the middle, I would say. At this point, they're starting to apply arcs and things like that, so kind of holds your interest, but it hasn't gotten heavy on the arc.
Sure. And it has LeVar Burton, the best character and human that's ever been in a Star Trek show.
Yeah.
Yep. Plus, he taught us how to read.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's almost like would it benefit? So then I would probably say Deep Space Nine would be next. The only issue I have with Deep Space Nine, I think they had a nice arc in there, but everything was very dark and serious, and and then they had Quark, and what the hell is with Quark? I don't know if I really like Quark, because they paint Ferengis a certain way, and all of a sudden here's Quark, and he presents as this most enlightened Ferengi of all time, and he's a bartender. I don't know what he's doing. Anyways, and then let's see, as far as series are concerned, I would say Enterprise is next. They return to the lightheartedness, wasn't too serious, whatever. I could get into it, and
sure.
Yeah.
Said space bacula.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Voyager maybe comes after that. It's kind of like, okay, you guys keep moving on with this thing. I don't know, maybe I'm getting a little bored. You're in the Delta, or where are they now?
Delta Quadrant.
Yeah,
which is I like, because I thought it tried to bring it back, and someone had mentioned like they had to start, kind of incorporating characters and plots and races from the other quadrants.
Yeah, they're trying. It's like an RPG
like
all of a
I think
sudden.
that's when they were weakest. They're like, oh, we're going to recreate the magic of the first one.
But it's like this is the only series in which they don't find some way to either travel through time or travel across the universe, in some absurd way. So
I had the hologram doctor, which is a great Red Dwarf sort of nod, and I had Janeway, who was in Remo Williams' The Adventure Continues.
Oh, of course. So,
we're getting really geeky here. It was the ultimate geek cast.
So let's see what other things are, what other
we haven't seen the new one, right?
Yeah, we haven't seen
Picard.
I fell apart after like the second. Yeah, I just couldn't.
When they make pizzas, that's fun.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, by the second season of Picard, I couldn't hang with it. Discovery was kind of the same way. I had to force myself to watch it, and then finally I was just like, all right, everyone's crying all the time. How is this a battle ready group of people? I mean, their emotions are taking front stage here. So I didn't really like the dramatic element of that. And then I guess on to movies, because I would put Discovery at the low. Let's see. So the best movie would have been, oh man, when I was a kid, I would have said Star Trek: The Motion Picture, followed by Star Trek 3, followed by Wrath of Khan.
3 has my quote from that one is, "You green-blooded son of a bitch." This feels racist.
Yeah. I love that play. But now I would say, okay, so Wrath of Khan was just an excellent cinematic product.
Someone talk about chewing scenery. Everyone knows the con line, but Cardamonto going,
no, at this
I don't like to lose.
It's hard to go. It's hard to figure out what's next, because I could say Voyage Home, because that was quality, like character interaction. It was
clear aluminum,
a lot of slapstick. It was great.
Computer.
Yeah. I mean, it's just full of great jokes. But then also at the same time, I want to go back to the motion picture, because that was an excellent. It stands by itself. They're wearing completely different stuff. Everything looks different, but it's got this wonderful cinematic quality. You have this mystery. But it's like something you can kind of understand. You know, this thing comes back self-aware and it's looking for its creator. Okay, that's pretty easy.
And because it's based on, the Voyager spacecraft from Earth, I can constantly go V'ger whenever it shows up in the news.
Oh, I know.
Left the solar line. No, but you mean
I love that. I love that. And
spoiler alert.
The ending, they could have wrapped that one better. Let's see here. And then I would definitely put Undiscovered Country. My only problem with Undiscovered,
roast a marshmallow.
Yeah, well, no, that's 5. Undiscovered Country.
Oh, 6 is
Shakespeare.
6 says, I give real money if he'd shut up.
Everyone. Yeah. Does everyone have a PhD in literature in this time period?
Basically.
Yeah. So
all the President's Men took a track.
It was a good yarn. It had some great mystery or detective story elements.
There's a sci-fi trope. It's not just Star Trek, but I feel Star Trek does it a lot, where they name 2 things that we know and a third one just to seem like they're not choosing. My favorite composers are Mozart, Beethoven, and Fleet Flop from Sector 4.
It can get a little pretentious at times. It's like no one knows that.
Make it seem like they aren't all references from our time.
Have you ever heard Hamlet in the original Klingon? The original Klingon. It's okay.
I think you just
I did. I'm gonna get sued for that one. And then beyond that, let's see here.
So those are all the original ones.
Yeah, and then 3, of course, because it finishes off. We get Spock back. That's wonderful. I know, but I would have put that like up at the top before, but now it's closer to the bottom for those. And then finally we've got the number 5, which was
I just said, roast marshmallows.
Yeah.
Why is he climbing the mountain?
But it was like a great theme, but executed kind of horribly. And I don't think they drove it home. It was like a little too pretentious and spiritual. I don't know. Anyways, on to so the Next Generation. I guess First Contact was okay.
The guy says, "That'll do, pig," right?
Yeah.
Am I confusing?
Oh yeah, that's a different movie, but same guy. But yeah, so First Contact would have probably been my favorite. Generations, I don't know, I was kind of disappointed, but First Contact,
I consider that non-canon because
and then
still alive.
Yeah, and then it drops off for me. I didn't really care much about Insurrection or Nemesis.
Well, Nemesis had Tom Hardy.
Everything I know, that's the only good thing, and because it just sort of seemed like extra episodes to Next Generation. And by that point, I was really like, I don't really care about these characters too much anymore. I mean, they can go off and retire. I don't know, whatever. Sure. And then let's see. Oh, the reboots. I loved the first reboot. I thought that was great. It was very. I kind of liked the flares, but I got sick of them pretty fast. And it was.
I like it, but it drives me crazy.
Yeah, it was fast paced though.
A drug good in small amounts.
It was fast paced, and I actually did like Into Darkness because I love Benedict Cumberbatch. But that's all I'll say about that. And there is one scene in there where there's a stare off between Chris Pine and Benedict Cumberbatch. I kind of like.
Yeah, and I do like that they really obviously gave some thought. Like, who is this generation's Ricardo Montalban?
Mm-hmm.
Who here has a really amazing name?
Yeah.
Right, that's probably how he got the gig.
That was their only hiring.
You know, they were preaching to us about the military-industrial complex.
Are you sure it wasn't because he played Sherlock Holmes?
You were really close to mine anyway. I know we didn't review this. The only thing you skipped and that I want to add on, not in a space, but just something to mention, is the animated series.
Yeah,
because there's
never watched it much, but it was the few I watched were great.
It's not. It's amazingly awful.
You think so? Okay.
Well, no, but what I mean, the production quality is awful. But
I like that animation.
But there is just an absolutely incredible series of shorts that are on social media. It used to be the former Twitter, and it's called Swear Trek. If you just do a search, you'll find it.
Oh my god!
I think it's the same guy who does Effin' Birds, but it's much easier to do with the animated series where he can have them say very inappropriate things.
Yeah,
and it's usually just one-liners, it's gifs you can save or gifs. So I don't really care.
I'm looking those up,
and then I use them so much, and it's like, it'll be like. They'll be like, someone will be talking to the screen and they'll just look over and they'll go, look at this, a word,
That's great.
And it's Swear Trek, and it's just amazing. It's kind of like the prequels for Star Wars. It's like, it's so bad. You get so many memes and you can have so much fun with it.
It's like an infamous moment of TV. It's just going to be there.
So that's my only addition. But yeah, I was curious where your rankings is going to be, but thank you.
Yeah. All right. Right. Yeah. And then the new stuff, I never saw it because I was so disappointed.
We literally just found out about Prodigy.
Yeah. Prodigy.
We're looking it up.
What the hell?
Someone said Chakotay. I was like, no.
Great. Now I know everything.
Nice.
You fool. All right, let's hear it from the prosecution. Always closes their argument. If
No, the defense always closes.
You should be glad I'm letting you go at all. Still fucking angry I lost in your fucking show. Go ahead.
Well, you should have been right.
Now.
It was a good effort.
If you were right, you might have won.
All right, so Maynard and I are going to tag team this, and we're going to start with the TV shows and work our way up. So, the original series. What do you think? 1 star.
That's my favorite, really.
Oh, okay.
Is 5 stars for the original series. I like lo-fi sci-fi. So I'm not really a Trekkie, but I'm a fan of Lost in Space and all the Jules Verne movies, any Harryhausen. So low special effects, makeup especially is great. So I like the Gorn. I love the Tribbles.
The campier the better.
Tribbles, and they're basically the best thing about Star Trek. So 5 stars for me.
Well, then I know you also like the animated series. That's next. Then
what was yours?
Are you? Well, I'll give it 5 stars. Come on, it's the original. I'm gonna give most things 5 stars.
All right, okay. I was making jokes before, but I am gonna give the animated series 4 stars. Now, the animation is bad. You're totally right.
What?
But it is. It's cheap. Who cares?
It's cheap animation.
You get all the original voice actors. So think of it like a radio play from back in the day with all the original actors, except you get kind of a crappy visual aid. Just close your eyes and listen to it. Who cares? And when the episodes aren't just complete retreads of the original series episodes, there's a couple little cool moments where they had rethings. And
yes,
Tribbles again.
You got Tribbles again.
I might even go to 4.5. Tribbles again.
4.5. You got me at a firm 4.2 on that. I'm sorry.
So if a Tribble's not in it, you're not gonna like it.
Well, that's why he
say that.
That's why he loves Deep Space Nine. But
no, it's a Tribble privilege. It's a bonus. So you're better for having.
So then we got to move on to the next generation. I know you love Tasha Yar, but she's not in it that long. I'm sorry.
That hurt the rating? I've only seen a few episodes. I fell in love with Tasha Yar. He told me they're gonna fire her, and I said, "Well, I'm not watching the rest of the show." So
and he never did. But let me tell you something. The next generation is probably standard of Star Trek. That is 6 stars. I'm breaking
Justice
the
for
scale.
Tasha Yar.
I'm breaking the scale.
Justice for Tasha Yar. But I have to abstain from rating this because I have only seen like 3 episodes. And it's not my kind of show because it is more political. It is more talking. There's a little bit of adventure. But where are the monsters? I like those big tentacle monsters in the first episode.
Well, I mean, okay, there aren't as many monsters, but when you have episodes like Inner Light, Measure of a Man, those things are very, very good.
Aren't that many?
All right, let's keep moving in the interest of time. So after the Next Generation, we're moving on to what does that be? Voyager. Let's do Voyager, then we can do Deep Space Nine. You never saw Voyager? I give Voyager a solid 3 to 4. The thing about Voyager is it's kind of like Diet Coke. The worst episode of Voyager is not as bad as the worst episode of TNG, but the best episode of Voyager is not as best as the best episode of TNG. It's just right in the middle, you know, a good show to put on a rainy afternoon.
I can't drink Diet Coke.
Diet Coke's terrible for you. I should have said Diet Pepsi. So let's move on to Deep Space Nine, which is I don't even know what that would be.
This is the one I want to watch. I haven't seen it.
It's amazing. 5 stars. The aforementioned Garrick. Where's Oliver, my boy? You still here? Yes. Garrick, best character ever. He's not even in that many episodes, but he sticks with you, and they were able to deliver on so many of the promises they made in that show. Great character development across the board for everyone. And there's that documentary about it. I think it's called The Things We Left Behind, where they explore what they were able to do in that show, and if they were to ever come back, what they would do. But yeah,
I like the idea of telling the side story, right? Like, you know, the off little.
No, that's true. And it's not all Federation based.
That's a good lesson for a lot of franchises to learn.
Yeah, no. They really expand the world. You know, you're dealing with a lot of different characters, a lot of different factions, a lot of different issues. But it has all the stuff that you love about Star Trek. It's got cool aliens. It's got the politics. Someone before mentioned the science versus religion stuff. And they go back to the Tribble episode. Yes,
5 stars for me then.
There we go. So we're 5 stars.
Oh my God.
For Deep Space Nine. All right,
I'm glad.
So
I'm
now
glad
we
someone
know.
else is on Team Garrick.
Yes, exactly, 100%.
And may I just say kudos on the sartorial choice of the headwear.
Yeah. Oh, he's talking about you, or is it me?
Am I wearing a hat?
I think so. Yes.
You don't know?
Not always.
It's just part of his being
So
now.
I'm very convinced.
After that,
I now know that Dylan
right?
is a loyal member of Starfleet, and that Maynard is a Section 31 agent trying to sabotage.
I was going to say he's a Section 31 agent. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Are they bad?
They're like this weird intelligence agency. They change from series to series.
Intelligence. I like that.
Yes. So then you got Enterprise. Enterprise is just okay to me.
It was a very enterprising series.
It was. One might say that. You would, I suppose. But I believe you just did. I don't feel confident rating it though, because I haven't seen that much of it. I saw the infamous last episode. I'm giving spoilers. Everyone said they weren't. The last episode where
Tasha Yar comes back.
No, Tasha Yar does not come back. Riker comes back. He was a hologram. He was watching the history.
Wow.
I mean, very boring. Riker is incredibly lame. He should have been focusing on his trombone playing. What are the shows after Enterprise? Then after that, then we start getting into New Trek, right? I'm going to punt on all New Trek except for Picard to register my disgust with it.
Someone tell me the first one. Help me, Cam.
What is Discovery?
What's next?
Discovery. Yes.
Yeah, Dancy, Lower Decks. This cartoon.
I've seen the first few episodes of Lower Decks, and I generally enjoyed the humor. I enjoyed the voice work. The animation style is just that, that weird little style that they do now.
Yeah.
But because I don't know Trek enough, it is a big barrier to entry. I don't think I'm getting all of the best jokes or all the best references. So then I'm just kind of stuck following it as a cartoon story. I could see finishing it, but I don't see it appealing to me unless I get deeper.
I'm going to pass. Trekkies keep telling me to watch it, but you know what? Just
give it a 3 though. From what I saw, it is funny.
No interest. And then what is it? Brave New Worlds, Undiscovered
Strange New Worlds. I actually watched the season.
I don't care. It's like,
because someone was like, "Oh, it's original Trek."
Well, how many stars?
And the Gorn are in it, but you never see the Gorn. And
you
it's
never
like, why not?
see the Gorn.
Actually, you do.
I've only saw season 1.
Oh, okay. So what? 3 stars?
Are they like
what
you kind of
season
pass
are you
the lizard
watching?
people through a thing? I didn't see. I don't remember seeing a Gorn come up with some big eyes in a big rubber or plastic mask.
Whatever.
If they use CGI, then they're losing a whole star for that. Put some people in makeup.
And then neither one of us seen Prodigy.
But I want to. And a friend said it was like really great Trek that kids would watch.
Yeah, maybe. And then again, Picard, 0 stars. Hate that show. Everyone said watch season 3. I've started season 3 maybe 4 times. I can't get past episode 2. I'm done with it. I'm checking out.
I have no reason to watch Picard without caring about
completely
Next Generation.
Done. So. Absolutely done. All right, those are the shows. How about we talk about the movies?
All right, so this trial will be dismissed. But with further
Why
ado,
would any of this be dismissed? This is legally binding.
This okay. So the motion picture, Star Trek, the
Love the motion
You
picture.
love the motion
Officially
picture.
not guilty in our court.
Also true.
I like that if you're good. So imagine yourself you're seeing it in theaters. Star Trek's never been on the big screen, and everything's big. Robert Wise, great director. It is a bit of a 2001 ripoff, but putting things in space really slow and long, I like the V'ger twist. It feels like a good episode of Star Trek because it's an adapted one. And so it,
I just reject this. I reject this premise.
Give me a four.
When people say that the motion picture, it's the most Star Trekky of the Star Trekky movies, I completely disagree. Where's the cowboy planet? Where's the Nazi planet? Where are the Gorn? Where are the Tribbles? And whenever people talk about the original series,
where are the Tribbles?
Those are the things people talk about with the original series. They don't talk about being a slow plotting 2001.
No, I agree with that.
Now that said, I do like the motion picture, but I don't want you Trekkies out there getting your big head saying, "Oh, this is actually the most Star Trek one." It's not. It's a 2001 ripoff. You have to
Trekkies are
accept
pretty
it. 3
nice.
stars.
Star Wars fans,
All right.
not so nice.
Okay, so then we got the Wrath of Khan. I'm giving that one 5 stars because I actually saw it in an old movie house, and William Shatner did an interview after.
The Shat?
Lucky
that
you.
was him. I know, and my father was able to meet him, got a picture with him. It was fantastic, and not to mention, just great action, great story. Still feels very Star Trek, makes Kirk have to confront his own demons and his own obsessions, because he always wants to win.
I also liked Wrath of Khan. We did on the episode, but we unfortunately put it head to head against Galaxy Quest.
Yep.
And Galaxy Quest was better. So Wrath of Khan was fine. It didn't feel, someone said earlier, it doesn't feel like a Star Trek show. I agree. It's a little actiony.
Star Trek's plenty, actually. You just talked about how much you love him fighting the Gorn.
Yeah, but they don't do it enough.
All right, moving on.
I'll still give it 5.
That's good.
It is good, but I have to now abstain from all the rest. I have not seen any of the rest of the original, like 3 through 6, until we do them on.
We got to do them on the show.
So I need to stay in.
Anyone who from here wants to come on and defend Search for Spock, let's do that. Though actually, I like Search for Spock. I mean, Christopher Lloyd as a Klingon is absolutely fantastic.
Spock. Well, we got to get Spock. My favorite instrument's the gong.
Well, you're going to love this because in Star Trek 4 they steal Christopher Lloyd's time machine, and that's why they go back to get the whale. Yes, exactly. I mean, Star Trek 4 also great. Star Trek 5.
They go to Wales, right?
That's the
all the way to England.
That's no. They get the large aquatic mammals. Yes, and they need the sounds to communicate with the probe. That's it. That's the whole movie. I just told you.
I saw a good Futurama episode like this.
Exactly, lots of good jokes in that. And then 5 has all the deficiencies that everyone else already mentioned. Kirk's not a very Kirk. I'm not even calling him his real name. William Shatner's not a particularly competent director. He's exceedingly confident in his own abilities, which
he's a wonderful singer.
Yeah, no, he's great like that, and of course, the famous, why does God need a spaceship? It's like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing here? And then 6, that's my favorite. I love The Undiscovered Country. Great movie. You got Christopher Plummer, someone else already said, until you hear it in the original Klingon. I mean, great lines there. I tell you, the beginning with the assassination when they're in the 0G magnet suits, that stuck with me. I love that. That made me a sci-fi fan for life, that one scene, and they had like the weird purple blood and stuff. Once you get past the original series, then what are we on? We are on Generations. Generations is interesting because I saw it when I was a kid. And I was a kid, I say 5 stars. Kirk and Picard teaming up. This is awesome. But then when you watch it when you're a little older with a little more of a critical eye, you can't help but notice the many and numerous deficiencies of it. But still a lot of fun. I'm willing to give it 4 stars.
We haven't done that one yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Gotta do it on the show.
But we did once.
First Contact, I'm willing to give that 5 stars. I mean, it's really action oriented, but it's a good piece for good character piece for Picard. He has to deal with the whole Locutus of Borg thing because you don't know this, Maynard, but Picard was a Borg for a little bit.
I did know that.
But he did get better. And this movie, or did he? That's what you find out in First Contact. And then we had Insurrection. Now, Maynard, you know a little bit about Insurrection.
Who told you?
No, Star Trek Insurrection.
Oh, you said Insurrection. So I liked this movie, and I agree. It's like just a long episode, but at the mood I was in when it caught me, I was in for a cerebral, talky one. I usually am not, but that day it did catch me in a talky mood. I liked the parallel. Pretty sure at the time Israel and Palestine were not getting along then, so it's certainly applies to that film as well. So I thought that was made me think, which I thought is kind of what Trek's supposed to do. I don't like that, which is why I avoid it. But
Right.
it did it, and I
Rob
thought that
only
was its
does
job.
mindless movies.
Not
Don't make
guilty.
him think.
Not guilty. So I'll give it 3 stars though, just barely. Not
So
guilty. Maybe
Insurrection
2.5.
for me, I would probably have given it 2 stars. But when I had to defend it for the show and I researched a lot more, I discovered a text by Michael Piller.
Is that one where they shave Riker?
Yes, the sensual shaving in the bathtub.
3
yes.
stars for sure.
So there's the Michael Piller actually wrote a book about the making of Insurrection called Fade In.
It's a good book.
And it's a wonderful book. You can still get it, get an ebook of it. And reading what his goal was for that movie and then how things actually shook out. And he was very honest and open in that. And Michael Piller, unfortunately, is no longer with us. He has since passed. May his memory be a blessing. It just really opened my eyes to like, man, maybe this movie, I just have to watch it a bit differently. And so when I watched it, knowing I had to defend it, I'm like, man, you know what? This is pretty good Trek, so I feel good giving it about 4 stars. Now, my most controversial opinion of the night has to be Star Trek Nemesis. You guys all talked about how you hated it. Let me tell you something. If I had to pick my send-off for the Next Generation crew to be the piece of shit that is Picard or Star Trek Nemesis, I'm taking Nemesis 10 times out of 10.
I'd agree with that.
You cannot tell me that Picard is a better send-off to the Next Generation crew. There's a reason we call... Let me tell you, we call World War I because World War II happened, right? That is
they kept making it nervous during the World War I.
I know, right? That's
all right.
Star Trek Nemesis. Star Trek Nemesis is basically like that, right? We have to reevaluate it based on events that have come later, and those would be the steaming pile of dreck that is Picard. Makes Nemesis better now. And I think that's
we did Nemesis. I did think the action was
he rightfully lost, which was good.
I did find it guilty, mostly because I didn't see that there actually was any backstory
during it.
Yeah, well, that's pretty bad. I don't fall asleep much during movies. There was no backstory or connection to Tom Hardy's character. Like, at least with Wrath of Khan, which clearly Nemesis was trying to piggyback on, Ricardo Montalban was in an episode and there was history. So it wasn't much, but there was something. And in here, there was absolutely nothing. It's just sort of an artificial, this guy's your clone from a long time ago.
Yep.
So no tribbles.
That's true. No tribbles.
So I'll give it 2 stars.
I'll give all the Abrams movies or that universe, every one of them gets a 2-star. That's fine.
First one,
that's pretty
4
flat.
stars because I don't really remember, but it felt competent. Lens flare is fine for 1 movie. Don't remember anything about the second. I probably conflate it with one of those Transformer movies.
Oh, probably.
I don't really remember the third one all that well either. So,
they crash on a planet and Idris Elba tries to kill them.
The first one 4, the others I'll give 2s.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the
and Galaxy Quest, which I'll give 5.
No, we're not ranking Galaxy Quest, and I appreciate no one else
go through every single person here and ask them Galaxy Quest.
Don't do it. It's not a Star Trek movie.
It is going on. Anyway, so just what I expected. We'll see at the mistrial next year. Anyway, so I'm going to close this out. So the line must be drawn here. Movie 8, First Contact, gets the 5 out of 5 star treatment. The same ranking you should give any movie. It has everything. It has aliens type action, Hellraiser type horror, and just thought-provoking Back to the Future sci-fi, but better than Back to the Future. So it's just beyond quotable, always dynamite. It's the ultimate party movie, but it is just so well shot and a brilliant rendering of classic Trek ordeals with the next-gen cast. It's Wrath of Khan on steroids, practically. And for the rest of the 5-star rankings, I'm going to put Forbidden Planet. That is the original Star Trek movie. In many ways, shape and center. And then 4.5 out of 5. We're going to go with Next Gen, DS9, and Wrath of Khan. Yes, there is some hammy acting in all of them. And Babylon 5 is leagues better than any weak chapter of DS9. But fortunately, I think the reason these have struck a chord with most of our rankings is just the characters are just so universally just charismatic and they feel like an actual family instead of a bunch of assholes who don't get along with each other. And as others have mentioned, yes, at DS9, you do have to actually, it's made for binge watching. It was just never going to catch up because it was in between TNG and Voyager at that time. And yes, all these shows do have some weak episodes. I personally recommend skipping any episode that's mainly based around Troy's mom, Alexander, or the Ferengi. That is the best way to go about it if you want to just get to the just dynamite, just again, epic battles, the 5-parter episodes before that was a thing, and just the wonderful conspiracy arcs involving Starfleet. All right, so the 4 out of 5s. The original series, the last 2 seasons of Enterprise, Voyage Home, Undiscovered Country, Insurrection, Galaxy Quest, Enemy Mine, the best unofficial Star Trek movie. Most of the
You
books
love Enemy Mine.
Howard the
Yes.
Duck?
No, stop that. I'm putting you back on mute.
Stop. Most of the books and comics, the various fan films, Axanar of Gods and Men, Horizon, and the Renegades web series, Strange New Worlds, and all of Picard. All of these are just a pat on the back for the Trekkies who've been with this long enough. The philosophy is rich. The proper send-off for all these characters really worked out for the most part. I especially applaud just Galaxy Quest at introducing non-track fans into the track canon. I also applaud just, again, Voyage Home and Undiscovered Country and Insurrection, I think, are just all overlooked because they go away from the track canon, but that just makes them work better as a movie. And altogether, just the fan films are just a labor of love, especially Axanar and Of Gods and Men, because they're taking just all the stuff that really worked so well in the various other movies and shows and just did way more service than Paramount cared to at the time. And Strange New Worlds is just off the ground running. I love how the Gorn are more like the creatures in Predator and Alien. The musical episode was a perfect realm of creativity, as well as just showing just how diverse this cast of characters is, while reminding you how, pre-Kirk was the key moment on how Starfleet got formed and how there were so many people willing to overtake all the hidden evils of the world. The Picard show, I just must apply because much like Strange New Worlds has fixed the parts of Part 5 with Spock's brother that didn't work, I must applaud them for actually making B4 work very well in the final season. And just, again, the cast is just so dynamic. The new characters like Ralphie were charismatic, and they did a proper just final poker game for all the characters that the original show missed out on doing. And so with the 3.5 out of 5, I'm going to go Discovery. Season 2 and 4 we're seeing. That's where I'm going to go with the even number rule, but they did good by firing Brian Fuller that first season. He had worked on the franchise, but he clearly just wanted to bicker with everyone who had some good ideas. Voyager, like Oliver said before, and Gil and Teresa pointed out, if you're watching it casually, it's not a very good show. But if you go for much like you avoid all the bad Next Gen episodes, just avoid any of the episodes that don't involve time travel or the Borg, and you're going to really have a fun time. And Search for Spock, Final Frontier, and Generations, again, I don't use the last 2 often in a marathon, but they are underdeveloped extended episodes that overall have some decent action. And gonna put the Orville in there. That's at times more track than actual track. Star Trek Continues and the New Voyages fan series are also a wonderful labor of love, much like the animated series. They just are the episodes that went on aired, and it's so fun seeing how they have cameos from other sci-fi veteran actors, from Buck Rogers and so forth. 3 out of 5. Gonna put Prodigy here. Again, it works as a Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon. It doesn't really cut the mustard as actual Star Trek. I do like it when Janeway is mainly part of the plot, and I do applaud them for using archive voiceovers of both Odo and Spock in that one key episode. Overall, like others have pointed out, it's for kids to kind of get into versus adults to clamor onto. Nemesis, it's already been said. Again, this works as a Matrix, type action movie. It doesn't work as an actual track movie because the director was not interested in being deep with the plot line. And ultimately, it's fun, but it's a disappointment. It can only be enjoyed if you just switch your brain off and say, it's not Star Trek, it's a fun action movie with Star Trek characters in it. James Marsters and Michael Shanks were the original villains considered. Either of them would have actually made a compelling villain, unlike what we got. And then I'm going to put the 09 reboot and Into Darkness there. Again, you can watch them as mindless action blockbusters, but you can't take it as actual track because you're just like, okay, so Abrams used this to get the Star Wars gig, but it's not cutting the mustard as actual Star Trek. But to its credit, I do applaud them in terms of how they've actually introduced younger generations to the old ones. Like, it's kind of what they did with MacGyver and Mission Impossible. People saw the new stuff, so they went back to watch the OGs. All right, so there's no 1 out of 5 stars. I'm pretty generous, but I'm going to give 2 out of 5 to the Shatner alt universe books. I'm sorry, those pissed me off because Shatner, again, is not a writer. But
Tech Wars,
right? It was pretty much read like Tech
He's got to learn about Tech Wars sooner or later.
Damn it, again.
However, you should read them if you just want, again, just an acid dream of imagery and just the hysterical foreword by Jonathan Frakes saying Shatner's a smart man. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna put Star Trek Beyond in there again. Just that was a cluster for me when I saw it in theaters. The villain was very forgettable. Who would have guessed that was Idris Elba in makeup? And casting a Fast and Furious director is never a good idea. The Motion Picture, as half of you have said before, it was trying too hard to be like Solaris in 2001. And despite loving other Robert Wise classics like Run Silent, Run Deep, if I wasn't patient with this movie, I would have never gotten into Star Trek because it just doesn't cut the mustard. It's not Forbidden Planet. It doesn't make me care about anyone. I do like the V'ger character, but she is not well used in this movie, unlike in the books. And then the New Frontier fan web series. This was one of the first fan web series. You should absolutely watch it because it is awful. Like, good production value and visual effects. They even use the Galaxy Quest theme as its main theme, but the acting by the amateurs is a real tough sit. And I'm going to put Lower Decks on here again. When it's funny, it's really ripe and hysterical, but it's not South Park level or even Aqua Teen Hunger Force like it's trying to channel. And I know season 4 is getting some good reviews, but season 3 was really, really not well layered. Like, other than the DS9 episode, like, it just felt like they didn't want to do anything with the concept. It's like, let's go to a planet filled with owls because that's Star Trek-ish. So until they actually improve the animation or even do more crossovers with Strange New Worlds, I think I'm done with this particular one. But other than that, this is a very rare franchise for me where even the worst episode deserves some kind of recognition because of all the genre appreciation, the art direction, and just, again, the mind-blowing just material on display here. I would even say this is probably a universally agreeable franchise for the most part, camp or serious, because unlike any other franchise, it's for the most part made by people who actually want to be involved with this franchise, unlike any other sci-fi action horror franchise that goes downhill. So overall, I think we found some common thread. I have yet to hear anyone say they hate the Voyage Home. Yeah, I think so.
I do remember someone just recently on one of the other podcasts, they were talking about Star Wars for Star Trek, and they said Star Wars has higher highs, but also lower lows.
Oh.
And I would agree with that.
Yeah.
It doesn't get as awful.
Star Trek might
It
be
has
Star
such
Wars
wide
on
range.
SSRIs or something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely Star Wars on steroids at times, yes.
Well, there's so little Star Wars to go around. I mean, you got 9 movies, so if one of them is a bomb, and there are multiple bombs,
Yeah.
you just got years of bad memories about those movies.
Oh, look at the Wars
Star
fans
Trek.
now. Now they're arguing over the TV shows now.
I know. And like Star Trek, Star Wars seems to be better on TV right now. So
Right? Because
yeah,
it started there.
Yeah. And, you know, with Star Trek, you got over 800 hours of material to pick from. So if you get a bad episode or a bad movie in there, wait a few minutes and another one will be out.
You can do a fan edit of your favorite movies.
Yeah. And my God, they do.
And so this was interesting too, because again, I can't expect everyone to watch every installment, but it was interesting how no one shouted out any of the fan films, but everyone was divided on the animations.
No comment on the fan films.
Oh, shit.
The Fall on Your Sword videos of Shatner on the Mount and the one reason.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So
amazing.
for those who can't see it. So now it's time for everyone to just promote the shows. Let's circle around. Once again, what does Mission Log have coming up, John?
We will get back to our regular mission log, but all of our shows are at podcast.roddenberry.com. There's a little something for everyone, most certainly. The main mission log has been at it for, I guess 11 years now. We've been at it since 2012. That's when we launched, and with the mission to go through every episode ever made.
And you had Roddenberry patting you on the back.
Yeah, I mean, he and I, look, there's a much longer story to tell, but it involved wine and it involved him saying, let's do this thing. And I was like, all right, I guess we're doing the thing now. And that launched Mission Log and now a bunch of other podcasts after the fact. So we'll get back to Mission Log Live, which is our live Monday night show to discuss current Trek. We're currently doing a very cool series called Genealogy, where we're going through the entire archive, which is literally on the other side of that wall with everything that Gene ever wrote pre-Star Trek. So we've got his very first scripts going back to late 1953.
Oh, man.
And doing the deep dive on those, which was very cool, kind of connecting the dots to what he wrote then, what he became famous for in the 60s.
Right? And
so all of that, podcast.roddenberry.com.
You go from being a state trooper to a TV darling.
He was an LA beat cop, and he was writing speeches for the chief of police. So that's what sparked his writing interest. And then I think the story was he had sold 3 scripts in a year, and that was more than he got paid as a cop. So he was like, hey,
Right.
this writing thing sounds like a pretty good idea. I think I'll do that. And
life finds a way.
Yeah, we've uncovered some cool stuff. You know, we actually found a show that he created that has been lost to history, and it was unknown that he created this show. It was a Western that ran only 6 episodes in the early 60s.
Oh, really?
Everybody thought that his first show was a lieutenant, but no. He created this very
the Lieutenant's
short-lived show.
great. So overlooked.
Lieutenant shares a lot of DNA with Star Trek, and we'll get there soon enough. But right now, doing the really, really early stuff.
Awesome.
So, yep. So that's what I'm up to.
Stellar. Oliver, what do you got coming up?
If you're interested, you can find me on 4 different podcasts. The one that's germane to this one is where I review every single episode of the original series. It is called 78 Episodes, 30 Good Ones. You can find that on all your usual places. Also, my co-host Aaron White and I have watched almost 500 episodes of Law and Order.
Yes.
So you can go back and watch it and listen to that. That's the 27th Precinct.
They really hate Curtis.
If you love bad movies, you can join me along with 3 other people on the Masochists Movie Collective, where we watch terrible movies or cult movies. And finally, you can find me on inyourearholes.com, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of pop music from 1975 to the year 2000.
Nice. I got to get caught up in that one, the last one. All right. What do the Reels have next?
Show. It's called Reels of Justice. And every time we get a guest come on, they've got to prosecute or defend a movie of your choice. So you've got to come in and prove a movie is not bad before a jury of your peers. So whichever you want to come in, we'll take the other side. I've defended Battlefield Earth.
No, you haven't. Not on this show.
In a past life. Pretty close.
Nah.
It's a great rip.
We've done worse.
Anyway, but
any movie can be prosecuted and any movie can be defended.
I hate this movie. And then off the line, you guys are like, he was busting his ass off laughing at this movie. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Well, hey, it's a lot of character work, you know? Sometimes we have to really pretend we hate a movie even if we kind of like it, or vice versa, you know?
Well, you got to be able to make an argument. Even if you don't believe something, you've got to be able to argue it.
Absolutely.
You got to be able to see the other perspective and build the case.
I had to prosecute Titan AE, and I love Titan AE, and I won. I hated myself for a week.
Yeah, I never know where it's going to go. The guests, many of who have been local LA comedians and Mystery Science Theater alums are also just always dynamite. And again, never know where it's going to go. It's even funnier when we pull double duty.
We love when we get any of the people from Mystery Science Theater, Emily and Kelsey. They're great. We've got the most prolific living historian in Jeremy Black.
Jeremy
basically
Black,
on weekly.
He's on every month. Yep, I love it. He always schedules his next episode. That's how he always gets back.
All right, let's let
yeah,
everyone else talk. We talk too much.
Yeah, Reels of Justice.
I couldn't
wherever
tell.
you find podcasts.
All right, Cliff and Aaron of the Alien versus Predator universe.
We do the 2 of the movies by minutes podcast. There's a whole series of them. So watch one movie or watch 1 minute of a movie at a time. We do Predator. We're now on Predator 2. And we have another one called Gonzo Minute. We watch Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yep.
At a time, even though it'll be all Hunter S. Thompson movies eventually.
And we're working on our master thesis, which is that the 2 universes are connected.
Yeah. Well, when we had Cam, when you were on, you had connected it with the Greater Valverde thing. So yeah. And for anyone that's going to be
actual universe, look it up.
Posts, this will probably not make it on in time, but there's going to, for those of you that are listening live, we're doing a Movies by Minute convention in Indianapolis this weekend.
Yeah, yes, you are.
For any podcasters or guests or just listeners can show up. But if you're hearing this and it's after the fact,
you missed
out. And for those of you who can't see us, we're covered in rippling abs. We're very handsome.
Abs on my chin.
They work out with Schwarzenegger allegedly.
Yeah, we love the pump. But yeah, thanks for having us on. Like I said, we grew up on this. We loved hearing everyone's stories about.
I did not know where it was going to go.
And I love Oliver. I love it because Oliver, I can tell you've got the great abs too, and loved hearing the sort of Canadian perspective. So I was like, all right.
And you're a red shirt, so we got to respect the underdog, man.
There's actually, I can see 3 red shirts on screen right now. Bold choice.
Before Al Young was dying on screen, we had only, again, red shirts to look up to. They are our heroes, more so than firefighters. Make it so. All right, with further ado, it's been a hell of a party, but we better wrap this up. Otherwise, we're going to go bananas. So thank you all. It was so much fun. Hope you had a blast.
All right, cheers. Good to meet everybody. Take care.
Absolutely. You ruled
Thank
it.
you very much.
Yeah, it was a
totally
pleasure. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
There's some serious fun stories.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Be safe out there.
Thank you again, everybody.
Absolutely. And
nice to meet you.
Love what you do. Glad you could we could pick each other's brains.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks. Anytime.
You be safe out there.
Bye.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up